But you must have had like people, young people, kids, or parents of kids. My kid wants to be a comedian. What would you tell him? And the only thing is, like, somebody told me this about another career choice, and they said, if you can do anything else, do that.
Yeah.
And that is a great filter for anything, because if the kid goes, okay, then you weren't going to make it.
Yeah.
And if you say, well, I don't care what you say, no, I can't do anything else, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You're still not necessarily going to make it, but you have to get past that. You have to commit yourself to doing it.
You have to be just delusional and committed and passionate that you're just not going to,
and have no skill anywhere else.
Yeah, right, exactly. And be a total failure at the rest of life.
It's breaking bread.
A toast. Congratulations on your first special in 32 years?
32 years. There's nothing in here. I'm just toasting.
You've always been a good actor.
I don't want to be rude and not toast.
You've always been a good actor.
It's not a socially acceptable thing to
toast with water?
Or no, to not match somebody's toast.
Here's the thing with water. Some people say it's bad luck to toast water if other people have alcohol and you raise a glass. Oh, yeah. You're not drinking. I was with somebody who discreetly did this. They covered it and then
tilted.
And no, covered it and then toasted.
That keeps the bad mojo out? Really?
Yeah. Enjoy your mojo.
I didn't toast with it, though.
You said you had a Miles Davis story?
I have nothing but Miles Davis stories.
Really?
I don't know what you had planned.
Welcome to the Miles Davis Hour.
No, do you remember, it might be before your time, MGM Grand Airlines? MGM?
No.
There was I guess, early 80s to maybe early 90s. There was MGM had an airline, and it was like really boutique-y. It was like it was the seats were different, and it only had like 30 seats and like lounges, and it was like really, and it was not much more expensive than a regular first class. Anyway, so I flew it a few times when I was being flown somewhere, and there was always somebody cool on the flight.
Right.
I remember Betty Davis I saw on a flight, and one time Miles Davis. Only people, Sammy Davis, Tommy Davis. And now, wait a minute, how did I get on there? So the only thing I know about Miles Davis, other than a brilliant musician, is like, maybe don't bother him.
Yeah.
That seems clear.
Yeah.
And as we're getting off, and I'm going, Jesus, Miles Davis, he's one of those people you don't think you're going to see in real life.
Yeah.
And he's getting off the plane, and he's getting his thing. We landed. And this woman, very familiar family to me, New Yorkie woman, she says, I've got to say something to you. I'm going, no, don't say something. No, don't talk to Miles Davis with that attitude. And she goes, my nephew, he's a musician himself. I go, no, you're talking to Miles Davis. And then she goes, and I just have to, he thinks you're the greatest. And Miles Davis goes, well, tell him he's right. There
Nice.
you go. But I was thinking, you can tell her to shut up if you want.
Would it go just to Vegas, or was it?
No, it didn't go to, I don't even know if it did go to Vegas. It was L.A., New York, L.A., New York. And you'd always see, and I remember one time, whatever it was, early 90s, I think, or maybe even earlier, they had like a couple of compartments, like a train compartment with two benches and curtains.
Wow.
And Betty Davis was flying L.A. to New York and then on to Paris, where she died. So that was her last flight. And I was sitting in a regular seat, the kind of seat, behind her thing with the glass, and she's smoking. And all I see is like in a cartoon. It's just smoke and velvet curtains. I'm going, this doesn't look healthy to me.
Yeah. But in other ways, like going out in style.
Yeah.
Smoking all the way to Paris.
Thank you for closing the velvet curtain.
Yeah, right. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
It was a very cool airline.
It's so crazy that they would consider like smoking and non-smoking sections on a plane.
And I love that they still have it. This is a no smoking plane. They're all no smoking planes.
Do you get nervous when you get on a plane and there's an ashtray in the armrest?
No, I just like, who's manufacturing those and why? Just stop. Put your money elsewhere.
So leading up to your special,
yes,
which is called Life, Death, and Rice Pudding.
Life, Death, and Rice Pudding, because as you know, Tom, those are the 3 milestones in anybody's life.
I like how you talk about how. Sorry to interrupt, but I love how you talk about that you're not going to talk about anything important. You know nothing. That you're not going to give anything something. But yet, life and death are in your title.
Yeah. Well, there's a little mislead, but it's funny. I started just as sort of almost for my own protection, as a disclaimer. sometimes I would feel silly. You're going on a stage, like the world is falling apart. There's so many things. And I'm sitting talking about the silliest shit in the world.
Yeah.
Nothing. And so I felt, let me at least acknowledge that I know there's a world outside this. So it's just really just for
Right.
myself. I would start, like, I have nothing important tonight, nothing political, social. And people would start clapping. I'm going, oh, that's really appreciated. And people
Yeah.
going, can we not talk about anything important, please, for an hour and a half?
Yeah, it's why they're there.
That's why they're there. And I
Yeah.
suddenly felt, well, look at me. I'm doing a public service.
Yeah, it really
I'm
is
helping the people. Well, yeah, but it
It's true.
literally did make me feel
Yeah.
better about what we do. Because, yes, we're silly jesters,
Yeah.
but your people need that.
Yeah, I was in Indiana right after the election, and
This
my
year?
audience is a lot of
Just
family
now?
just now, and I'm sure that everyone in that audience, you'll have people that voted on both sides, and I don't really talk about it, but I did say something like, I think we've earned it. We're allowed to turn off the news for the rest of the year, and the place exploded. Like they were just so grateful, so happy that we
Yeah.
can get out of that scrum for a minute.
I didn't follow the election. Who won?
We're,
I really should pay attention.
We should
more.
fact check that.
Yeah.
We should really fact check it. We'll insert it.
But it's over. I was waiting for them to get all the kinks out of the system.
Yeah. It is weird when American election's over in one night. that rarely happens.
I was in Ireland a couple weeks ago promoting this movie of mine, and they were following the election as closely or more than we are here. Our election. I mean, and then I was getting all these condolence calls afterward. So sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be interesting times.
Look at us talking about the heavy shit that we're not talking about.
Yeah, we don't do that.
No, we don't.
Here's a fun fact.
Please.
I'm an avid bread baker, and I bake.
Is that true?
I baked this for you this morning.
I think you might be pulling my leg.
I think it's still warm.
You actually bake bread?
I bake this. Yes, I bake bread.
Wow, you're my hero.
And here's a cool thing. I learned how to bake sourdough bread from writing on Red Oaks. The little show you
I
did.
forgot about that you were writing.
I wrote on Red Oaks.
I was on Red Oaks and
You
I didn't
were
learn
on Red
fuck all.
Oaks.
I didn't learn a thing. I got no skill when I
Well,
left.
you showed up like, the fancy actor. You come in, where are my lines, and you're out the
How
door.
early were you
I
getting
was there
in?
grinding it out.
Like a
in
baker?
the writer's room. What are we going to get Reiser to do this week?
And Tom, more sourdough. Is that what it was?
And my friend Max, who was a writer on it, Max Werner, he had just learned sourdough. And the weird thing about having a sourdough starter and all this science fiction stuff about it.
Yeah, isn't there something that it started in Egypt and there's one seed that's still alive or something like that?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I got it.
And you got it. That's another moment I really loved in your special when you go, there's so much I don't know. There's just so much I don't. It's so great to see someone, a grown-up who's been around for a while, just admitting, there's so much I don't know.
Oh, yeah, and they keep making up new stuff. I go, hang on, let me process already what's out there.
Yeah. So I came home and told my family about this tale about the sourdough starter, and you have to keep it alive by feeding it flour. And my daughter, off of that story, she was like 13, got a sourdough starter started with flour and water for me. And I've been on this crazy bread journey ever since, to this moment where I'm giving you bread.
You know what? It's Breaking Bread with Tom, but I didn't know that bread was actually in it. I would have to listen to the show.
It's the most exciting part of the show.
So now let me ask you: as a baker of bread, are you eating just an awful lot of carbs? Are you just downing the bread?
I eat. The good thing about sourdough bread is that it's only flour, water, salt, and yeast.
That's
There's
all
no
anything
added
is.
sugars, and because it's such an active fermentation, it breaks down its own sugars. So if you are going to eat bread, this is the bread to eat if you don't want to be fatso.
What if I do want to be a fatso?
Well,
what would you recommend?
I would put a lot of butter on it. A lot of butter, dip it in chocolate. Have fun.
Well, all right. But if I wanted to be I was writing with a buddy of mine, and we hit some network problem. It was just this frustration. Mm-hmm. And I said, this was the greatest answers I said, how do I get out of show business? And he said, just keep doing what you're doing. And I said, there you go. You're on your way out.
How quick off of starting stand-up did you... Diner was your first right?
first job.
So that was that like simultaneously? In my mind, it seems like you
It was pretty close.
did an open mic and got Diner.
Yeah, that's did they not give you a movie? Monday night, whoever there's at 2 a.m, you get a film.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
No, I mean, I started in earnest 77, I guess 78 maybe.
Right.
And then, so I was doing it like 3 years, but my real full commitment 79. So it was like 2 years really. But it had nothing to do with like, wow, he's such a good stand-up. Let's promote him to film. I sort of told this story often, but I literally wandered into a casting office with my buddy who was dropping off a picture, and I was just waiting. So it was a total freak accident.
Jeez.
But the ironic thing was like 15 minutes of my 20-minute act was on Diners. And I went, well, this is convenient.
Weird.
I didn't use anything, but but
Yeah.
like, that's crazy that I'm in a movie that's actually called Diner. Because I lived around the corner from the Green Kitchen. Do you remember the Green Kitchen? It was a diner on First and 77th in New York. And we just ended up eating there every night.
Right.
And so I had 20 minutes on the Five Greek Brothers, and it was terrible stuff. I said, I can't remember. If I can, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, so it
That's
was
weird.
fast, and
That's
I hadn't gotten enough success or mileage. Like I had never been asked to be on the Tonight Show, but suddenly because of Diner, when it came out in '82,
Yeah.
they go, oh, here's a young guy, he's a comedian, but he's got a movie. So that let me, make it onto the Tonight Show. So it definitely fed that.
Right.
But I didn't have that success that you always hear about, like, you do a Tonight Show and the next day you have a career.
Did you go to the couch?
No, I didn't go to the couch.
You didn't go to the couch?
No, wasn't invited. He gave me that. He gave me one of those. Johnny gave me the okay or that or something.
Because that was the
Yes, if you make
for
it
our
to-
younger listeners who are listening. If you didn't get you did your set and then was Johnny going to ask you to come over?
Yes,
or
if you
not?
were so, because all you're told you're going to do is tell your little jokes,
Right.
and go back,
Right.
But if you did great, come on over to the couch. So that was like an A++. So I didn't get that,
was
but
that-
it was enough of a currency to have done it.
Yeah.
That my parents go, all right, he's got something. Johnny, that was literally my father's line. Dad, you see the show? Yeah, Johnny seemed to like you. We don't care for you, but.
we don't know what you're talking about.
But Johnny, but literally, it's a currency that doesn't exist now. There's no
know.
stamp of approval like Johnny Carson.
No, there's no giant gatekeeper.
But did you? When did you did?
I did
with Johnny?
Leno. No, Leno.
Because you're so young.
Yeah, because I'm a baby.
Yeah.
So I did Leno. Letterman was my first one. That was like, but Letterman was kind of the
Yes, he was-
Carson. Like that was like, it was hard
For
to
the cooler-
get there.
the
And
cooler
yeah,
version.
Yeah. So man, that's so fast. So that's in New York that happened.
Yeah,
When
they
you
were
walked into the
casting in New
casting-
York, and they were doing that thing where I guess they still do it, where casting, it's casting directors for film and TV would go to the comedy clubs to
Yeah.
see new, fresh faces. So the comic strip, which is my home court, had put up, for the casting director, put up 5 or 6 comics to look at for this role that was very amorphic. It was going to be the 6th guy of a 5-man movie. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So, but I wasn't even put up for that for some reason. And my buddy Michael Caine, who's 6 foot, a different Michael Caine, not Michael Caine, the 94-year-old British actor. But he was like a 6-foot Irish Catholic, former seminary student. It's like, it's different way to go. But he was put up, and then they said he went in to drop off a picture, and we were going to go hang out and whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll go with you. I was just waiting outside, and they went, come on in. I went,
Oh man, did your friend hate you?
no, what was funny, I didn't actually go in that day. When I went in, they said, "Do you have a picture?" And I tried my hardest to bow out. I said, "I'm not. I'm just waiting for my buddy. Do you have a picture?" Well, at home, I have 1,000. But yes, no. But come back tomorrow and bring a picture. And we joked on the way out. Wouldn't that be crazy if I ended up getting this?
Amazing.
And no, he was very happy for me. And
Now, had you had any thought? Were you studying? I mean, you were so natural and good right off the bat. Like, how did you?
thank you. I had been. The funny thing is, I had been in a class, or I was at the time in a class, and I was learning all the stuff you learn, and and what's your objective? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Where are you in the scene? And I had all these tools. And the audition, there was no audition. It was just sitting like this, talking to Barry Levinson, it was his first movie directing. And I couldn't wait to show off all the things I learned. He goes, no, none of that. We're just going to talk.
Really?
I said, well, I'm just going to sound like a guy who's having coffee. He goes, that's what I'm looking for. I went, that's good fortune. He said, you want a guy to just sit and pretend he's having coffee. I do that anyway.
Have you been to the Green Kitchen?
Yeah. It literally was that.
That's amazing.
And he was able to capture that because it's not easy. If you try to get people to act naturally. But what he did in that movie was he shot all those guys' diner scenes at the very, very end of the film schedule. So we were friendly and cranky and loose with each other, which we wouldn't have been 5 weeks earlier.
God, and that was his first.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
Jeez, he really did. Such a beautiful film. It's so great.
And it holds up.
It really does.
Yeah.
So did that?
It didn't turn
Like, where's your stand up in that? Like, if you go to the comic strip and you think,
well,
this is going to be my journey, and then all of a sudden,
yeah, but nothing was ever drastic. Mine has been so slow and incremental.
Yeah.
And accidental. Incremental and accidental.
Yeah.
That's my next special. No, because as I said, there are people who you go on Carson and then then they have a big, or you have a film and you're the star. Well, I wasn't the star, and it wasn't a big mega hit. It was like a cool underground sort of, you got to go see this movie.
Right.
But it was enough for people to go, well, who's this new guy that we've never heard of?
Yeah.
That's not on the poster.
Right.
So when I went to L.A. for the first time and I was sleeping on Larry Miller's couch, which, by the way, I don't recommend. I've learned my lesson. And so I had a little bit of a calling card, so I'd meet a casting director, and then I would, did a pilot or two. But I never, ever, and I still kind of really don't ever consider myself an actor first because, so I never felt like I was an out-of-work actor. Like, I'm just going to do stand-up, and I'm going to go to Cleveland and then Columbus and then Miami and Seattle.
Yeah.
And like, oh, wait a second, I got a little pilot for a week. Okay, we done? Now I go back to stand-up.
Right.
So that was always my mindset. Mm-hmm. And then, I was never one of these guys that said, oh, I'm going to get discovered on stand-up and then I'll never have to do it again. It's like, no, I just love stand-up like you.
Right.
And then, ironically, or as it turns out, when Mad About You took off in 92, I got so really consumed with that. That was really 24/7, 12 months a year in my head.
Yeah.
So I just kind of didn't get out there. I didn't decide to not do stand-up, but I just kind of got busy. And when it was over, I just thought, I'm tired. I'm going to stay home. We had a new baby. And so before I knew it, it was 20 years that I hadn't been on stage.
Whoa.
So part of why I wanted to do this special is like, people who only know Stranger Things or Beverly Hills Cop go, oh, that guy can do stand-up.
Right.
Or he can't.
Yeah.
Well, but it's their
that's
call.
not an easy, that is really not an easy thing to
get back.
To get an really solid act together after that time is.
What's the longest you'd ever taken off?
It was during COVID, during the COVID thing. And it was and it wasn't even that long. I started sneaking out like in June.
With a mask? Doing it?
No. I was like, just went to the places that didn't care.
And prior to that, were you out every week?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I wouldn't be on the road every week, but every week I was doing a set somewhere. Yeah.
It was weird. For the longest time, I said, I'm going to get out there. And then I said, well, it's been 10, 15. I'm not going to dig up my act from 92. Mm-hmm. So I just wrote a couple of bits and, unannounced, I'd drop by the club, or I'd say, tell the club I'm coming, but the audience didn't know. And so at this point, I'd been on TV, so there's a very nice, this guy, which lasts 8 seconds. And then they look at you, and what is it you wanted to tell us? And I go, that's the part I don't have yet. But it's good to see me in it. And it wasn't so much material. That's hard.
Yeah.
But it was also it was two things. It was the mechanics, getting the brain to fire as they do when you're on and when you're in it, and you can switch gears and you can add. That part of my brain had atrophied. And it's like, wow, I can't.
I'm mushy.
Yeah, and then there's also, for me, it was sort of remembering a sort of a sense of authority, just having to like, I'm okay. I do know how to do this. It took a year till the muscles weren't cramping, but I didn't feel entitled to be on stage. It was like a year plus before I felt like, all right, I can let's do a show and sell a ticket. Maybe.
Right. It's
but
interesting.
It took a while. I cringe if I looked at those takes.
The early spots.
After
Yeah.
having not done it for 20 years, like, wow, it was just, I could tell I was just not sure of myself.
But I remember Richard at the Comedy Magic Club saying how dedicated you were. Like when you were coming in, like you were really.
Yeah.
It was like because there's no way around it.
Well,
there's like you can't just write it and memorize and go by. Like
No.
you literally have.
But that's one of the things I loved most about getting back, as challenging as it was.
Yeah.
It still felt good. You know, I was in my 60s, but it felt like when I went up on audition night at 19, it's like, oh, I got a new bit I want to try. It was exciting.
Yeah.
And I also realized it's the only thing that you can't accelerate. You can't.
Nope.
You can't. There's no app. You can't turbocharge it. You can't send it out, have it come back better. It's like, got to do this every night. You got to get up there, and then you know. I remember talking to Jerry a while ago, and and this is maybe a few years ago, and he said he'd been doing a bit for like 4 years. He goes, I just found the line I was looking for. I went, that's how freaking hard this is. It's like,
right?
it's like, oh, you can be doing it like now. I get it.
Yeah.
And then the minute you get that, another bit falls apart. And you go, oh, play. Can we stay together? Everybody, come on.
Were you funny as a kid? Like, did you have the comedy
dramatic.
instinct?
I was. I think I was funny. And I remember in like elementary school, I loved any opportunity to perform, which is like, we had to write a composition, and anybody want to read theirs? Oh yeah, and I would, and I realized there was already then as a 10-year-old, I would put in little inside jokes that only one buddy would get. And then now I realize that's why you never made it big, because you're playing to the band. Try to get the whole class. Yeah. But there was the performing thing, and then when I was in high school, so at like 14, I was really into it, and as we all were, memorizing George Carlin albums and Robert Klein and Mel Brooks. I remember finding somebody, my older sister's boyfriend. I was 15. And he said, "You must know Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, 2,000-Year-Old Man record." I went, "No." He goes, "Well, let me open your eyes." And he gave me the original record.
Oh,
and I was like, okay, there's a whole other world.
And you grew up in the city?
In New York, yeah. And so by then I was really, not that I was funnier, but I was drawn to.
Yeah.
And I still didn't know that you could do it. It's like, I didn't look at George Carlin and go, I'm going to be George Carlin. But you just kept going. And as it turns out, so then I remember I'm 17, 18, and now the clubs had just started to rise to the consciousness. So, and we knew comedians who were coming out of those clubs. Oh, Freddie Prinze, and he became huge, and David Brenner, and Jimmy Walker, Gabe Kaplan's like. So, I saw there was a system in place.
Right.
If you go to these clubs, there's only 2 or 3 of them,
Yeah.
and then however you get in, and you have to audition, and it'll be terrible and painful. But if you put in your time, then something will happen. Like, okay, that's all I needed.
Yeah.
Because without that, I would never have had the moxie to go, I know you have a restaurant. Can I stand up and tell jokes? No, I needed there to be a system in place where people come and expect amateur.
How did you learn? Did you have friends that were interested at the same time, or did you just start poking around?
Yeah, I was. My friend Billy Grunfest. Do you know Billy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my buddy, we went to high school together, and like in day one of freshman year, we just kind of found, Mel Brooks records. I know.
Right.
So we became fast pals, and then there was this little program that this high school initiated right before spring break. They called it mini classes, where kids could volunteer and you could teach or just talk about hobbies. So somebody did a ham radio club or a theater or whatever, and we did a comedy class. And so we would kind of curate it. And like one year we would he did most of that work.
Yeah.
We would bring in our records, and he would say, well, there's monologists, and there's political, and there's satire. And so we started taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And by definition, and I remember actually trying to get guest speakers. And I remember calling, I'm 15, calling the Improv in New York. And I don't know, maybe I was hoping to get Robert Klein. Is he in? Would he come speak at my silly class? And no, he's not here. I said, who's this? This is David Brenner. I went, okay, that'll work. But we didn't get, actually, one year we got a buddy of mine somehow knew Norman Steinberg, who was a dentist, but he was but he was writing what became Blazing Saddles. He was writing with Mel Brooks. So he came in and gave a speech. So I was kind of an amateur student of it, and I
Getting
just
into it.
loved it.
Yeah. I remember when I started working at the comic strip on the Upper East Side. Lucian was the guy, and
he was the manager and the authority who let you pass or not get on.
There's a lot of great successful comedians who were told by Lucian, "You'll never make it."
Yes,
and but he always kept the sheet,
the sign-up sheet.
the sign-up sheet.
Yes,
when you and Carol
Leifer, and Rich Hall and I. All passed the audition
on the same night,
and we were passed. We were invited into the club by the MC, who was Jerry Seinfeld. So because at that point, MCing was actually a bit of
top
high
job,
stature.
yeah.
It's like, well, who's the top guy, and he gets to pick. Within a short amount of time, the MC became the guy to like, you stay and lock up. It was not a glamorous job.
Yeah.
But Jerry was a year or so ahead of us,
right?
And he was, he was already annoyingly good.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, that's really clean and good and tight.
Yeah. But I mean, I remember distinctly him showing us that sheet, and like this night, all these people were
Carol
here.
knows
and
the
these
day. It was
people
like
passed.
July something 78.
Yeah. And when you talk about like knowing the path and like being shown like there is a way to kind of make this happen, as a young comic, seeing your names on there was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna stay here. I'll stick around here.
Where'd you grow up?
Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about a half hour outside the city.
And so you would drive in?
I would drive in. I'd get my friends.
Where in Jersey?
Park Ridge, Wycliffe Lake.
Okay.
Like around Paramus area, like northern.
It's a bit of a drive.
It's a bit, about a half hour in my Ford Escort.
I used to drive in at that point. I grew up in New York, but when I was like 17, my parents, we moved to Jersey. So in Fort Lee, right by the bridge.
Oh, okay.
So it was a shorter drive than you, but it was still something. And and you knew you weren't going to get in the beginning. You're not going to get on in the prime 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So wait, and sometimes I come home from work, and then I was working in my dad's office. Come home and take a nap, and then at 11 o'clock call the clubs. Is there a crowd there? Should I come in? And I met my Lucian, God bless him. When I said it was like 12:30, I said, "Is it worth coming in?" It was like a 20-minute drive. Is it worth coming in? Is there a crowd? And he said, with no sense of irony, "Well, there's one guy, but he's a laugher." I'm in the car. Hold him. I got 5 minutes of very weak material to tell him.
I will Fort Lee. When I was coming from Paramus, I was living in an apartment in Paramus, and I had to come up Route 4 to the bridge to go into the comic strip, and I got my first audition spot, and I'm driving in after work, and I was in traffic, like that bridge traffic, and the cars, like everyone's merging, like that inch by inch by inch, and this truck just wouldn't let up on me, and we ended up like stuck together. And they pulled our cars off the side. The cops came from the Port Authority, pulled our cars off the side, and my registration had lapsed, so they arrested me. I'm sitting, I'm handcuffed in Fort Lee to the bench. And I'm like, I have an audition. I have to go. You have to go.
Well, in that case.
And I literally had a briefcase. I had like this little leather briefcase for work. And I'm like, I'm telling you, there's jokes in there. And I'm like trying to convince them that I have this audition. They're like, why don't you tell us some of your jokes?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, fine, I'll try and reschedule.
Man.
But I missed it because I got arrested in Fort Lee.
How did that end? How'd you get out? What?
My girlfriend was working in a law firm, and her boss was one of the judges of Fort Lee.
Jesus.
So they got me out. They sprung me.
But you can get arrested.
Handcuffed.
You don't
handcuffed to the bench.
Oh my God.
Because of my registration. They just wanted to mess with me, I
Wow.
guess. I guess they probably didn't like that I had such a fancy car at a young age.
Yeah, that's annoying.
The Ford Escort. I think it was turbo. But yeah, it was
Wow.
Yeah.
My very first audition, I didn't have the honor of like, this is your audition slot, just wait online. And you'd get there in the summer. I was 18, and you'd wait online at like 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
They'd give out the numbers at 6. So you're standing there on the curb,
God.
lined up with other idiots, most of whom were annoying, and going, wow, these are nutty people.
Yeah.
Then you get a number to come back, and maybe you'll get on 11:30, 12.
Yeah.
So there's your day. And I have a cassette somewhere in my basement of that tape. It was 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And my tape recorder was on a table next to under the speaker. But there were some customers, and in the middle of my 5 minute of brilliance, I hear one guy go, "Well, I'll say this: the kid's got balls." I said, "Well, that's a quality. That's a good review."
It is so funny when you talk about those days, like standing in line and all. Like it seems impossible.
It is impossible.
But you loved it so much. You were just so excited to be on your way.
But you must have had like people, young people, kids, or parents of kids. My kid wants to be a comedian. What would you tell them? And the only thing is, like, somebody told me this about another career choice, and they said, if you can do anything else, do that.
Yeah.
And that is a great filter for anything, because if the kid goes, okay, then you weren't going to make it.
Yeah.
And if you say, well, I don't care what you say, no, I can't do anything else, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You're still not necessarily going to make it, but you have to get past that. You have to commit yourself to doing it.
You have to be just delusional and committed and passionate that you're just not going to,
and have no skill anywhere else.
Yeah, right, exactly. And be a total failure at the rest of life.
Yeah.
Jerry always tells this great story when he was having lunch with Michael Richards on the street in New York, and somebody came up to them, and the guy says to Michael Richards, "They said, so nice to meet you guys," and they said hello, and they said, "What do you do?" And the guy says, "Well, I've been thinking about maybe getting into acting," and Michael goes, "You'll never make it." What do you mean? Think about maybe get into no?
Yeah, because it's so guaranteed of success.
Yeah, you can't have any flicker of maybe.
Yeah, and you have to want it. I remember, I was a music major in school, and it wasn't a plan, but I always played piano, and it was kind of an easy way to get through 4 years of like, oh, I think I can do this, and you took other courses, but anyway, I remember. Like, well, okay, what would a career be? I wasn't good enough to be a performer. And I remember there were guys who were making a fortune writing jingles, commercials, like Barry Manilow and all these guys.
Yeah.
And I remember I knew somebody who worked at an ad agency, and they put me in touch with the guy who's head of the music. And I said, Dad, I'm thinking of maybe, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who said, if there's anything else you can do that. I went, okay. It sounds hard. Yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah, I'm out.
But, the other sort of pivotal moment, I remember early on, on a tough night, on a Tuesday night at 11 or whatever, it's a comic strip. If you have a great night, you leave going, I can't wait to do that again.
Yeah.
You can't, right? And I remember on a bad night, my thought was, oh, I can't wait to get this out of my system. I got to come back tomorrow and do better.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if all good or bad, all roads lead to, I got to come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
That told me, I think you like this.
Yeah, that's great. How great were the Mad About You years? Was it like, it was such a huge hit. There was such a rhythm, a comedic rhythm to that show. It must have been fun to just.
It was great. Yeah, it was great fun. You're always chasing your tail. Going, okay, this script works. What about next week? It's Friday.
Yeah.
It's next week. We're meeting on Monday for the table read. It's not. So you're always worried about next week's show, and you're editing last week's show. So it's always you're kind of into your eyeballs, but you get used to that. But the actual work, when was great fun. I mean, we had great writers, and getting to play with, Helen Hunt. And certain scripts, like when I would read the script or write a script, and it was like 8 pages of just dialogue. I go, this is going to be fun.
Yeah,
this is going to be. There's no
right.
and I always knew that. When the execs read the script, you're not going to get, but it doesn't look like a joke, but that's going to be a big laugh because she's going to look at me funny, or I'm going to pause. So the stuff, whatever was in the air between us, was very tight and strong, and I do miss that. That's why we did the little reunion 5 years ago. We did 12 episodes, just the original, because I kept inviting us. You guys should do a little reunion with it. We ended it well. Why mess with it? But they kept talking to us. So we met and we said, well, it'll be fun. We know that.
Right,
it'll be
exactly.
fun just to play tennis, the two of us together.
Yeah.
And then we thought, but why? Why, And then we thought, wait a second. the little baby we had at the end of our show is now 20. She's leaving the nest. Now we're alone again. That's what the original pilot was. Okay, everybody's walking out. It's just us.
Yeah.
2 idiots in 4 walls. That's a show.
Yeah.
And but the extra fun part was like, okay, it's 20 years later. We're tired. We're older. We're walking slower.
Yeah.
We don't hear as well. That cute baby turned out to be a handful.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
I remember we had. You know, we got the rhythm when we were doing the show of like, okay, if you're in the kitchen and the doorbell rings, you need 6 lines to get to the door. So you keep moving up the queue. Well, now 20 years later, I need 14 lines. It's a longer, slower walk.
It's going to take me
Yeah.
a while. It just seems like, especially when it becomes a hit, and you know you're not like fighting for your life to stay on the air. That then the freedom to be able
Yes.
to work with each other and just have fun. It just seems
do
like
have that-
another level of fun.
For sure. And in the beginning,
Yeah.
you do have that. I had forgotten. Thank you for reminding me of that nightmare. But yes, you do have the specter
The panic
over.
of-
Yeah, like, oh, did they pick us up? And,
Yeah.
And we had the thing of, you know, they moved us around, and we were literally on 6 different nights in 7 years. And some terrible. We were at one point on a Sunday night.
Wow.
And it was like, it's just horrible. And you know, and I remember the head of the network once apologized. You know, we were trying to launch it, and we thought we could launch it with you, and we fucked you. I was like,
Oh,
yes,
really?
you did.
Really?
Yeah. No, and not on purpose, but
Wow.
it didn't work out.
In my mind, it was just smooth sailing.
See?
Yeah.
So
it was just a fun.
But the bitterness in me is still there. No, but
It's always painful.
What I was going to say is that you start at some point, you let that go, and
Yeah.
you say, I can't control that. You
Right.
know, I mean, unless you have the clout to do it. But
Yeah.
what we can do is we can write the show we want, and we can do it, and we can cast it, and we can make it what we want. You know, and I used to liken it to, you know, a painter paints a painting, and somebody buys it and then puts it in their garage. Well, it's theirs now. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I can't follow where it goes, but I can
Yeah.
only make it as good as we can make it.
Yeah.
But it was great, and it certainly was a huge thing to go from being a comedian that's maybe you've seen in a couple of movies to, oh, we're in millions of homes
Yeah.
every week.
God.
Like, whoa, that's different.
That's got to, yeah, man, the impact of that has got to be pretty fun. I specialize in being in things that only last 6 episodes.
Well, that's your thing.
Because I
man.
want to keep my
You-
integrity as,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Oh, I got a string of those. But again, you can only do it and
Yeah.
make what make it the best of your abilities.
It's got to be a cool thing to know, just on the acting side, from little babyface diner coming in, not even having a headshot, and now like Stranger Things and playing in the film. What's your film?
The Problem with People?
Problem with People. Like to be able to like, it's you, but it's like this other version of you in a way.
Well, yeah, you know, if you wait 40 years, things are different.
Yeah, yeah. You still look amazing.
Oh, I look this
And
22.
you're very
Don't
vibrant.
I look 22?
But to be able to play, like even in Red Oaks, like you were playing this kind of a prick.
Yeah, well, it was funny. He was written. I remember sort of passing on Red Oaks because I read the script. I said, he's the country club asshole, and I've seen that. And they said, well, look at the second script. And I went, oh, okay. So now, and then I remember working with the creators,
Greg and Joe.
Greg Jacobs and Joe
Gangheim.
That's something, yeah.
Gangheim.
And I said, well, what if we sort of gave him other colors. It's like, oh, his marriage is really solid. He's a great husband. Oh, he loves his daughter. Oh, he's nice. So,
yeah.
And he can be a prick.
Yeah.
But let's get the full spectrum.
Yeah.
So and it's fun, you know. I remember when I was writing with a friend, we were writing something that I was going to play. And, it was something for me to do on TV. And after a couple of weeks, he goes, you know what, everybody thinks you're such a nice guy. You're not such a nice guy at all. I went, I know. But those are fun.
It's cool. Yeah.
It's fun to play all of that.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he wasn't a complete asshole. He was just successful, and he was kind of ballsy.
Well,
but,
yeah.
But
what's funny? For years, people would say, hey, Aliens, it was such a clear, that's a bad guy. He was the weasel. He killed everybody. And I used to joke, I said, you call him a bad guy. I say he's misunderstood. Right. So cut to 35 years later, somebody comes to me with the idea of what do you think about doing a comic book, doing a show where Burke lives? I said, that's really funny. And Adam Goldberg, who created the Goldbergs, very talented guy, he had this idea. And he came up with this story of like, oh, well, the reason that your character was trying to get the alien back to Earth was actually for a very noble reason. And you find out, oh, because his wife was in a coma with an illness, and there was something in the blood, and this was to save his wife, and thereby also save humanity. And I went, yes, that's what I was thinking 35 years ago.
All along.
All along.
Finally, someone saw
Subtext. Subtext.
We do a thing on this program called An Uncomfortable Moment.
I've been having it since I got here. I'm ahead of you.
And we do a little digging of things in the press and stuff. No, this is, I mean, I don't feel like this is that
Is it
uncomfortable.
true?
Is it true that, you're very well known, this kind of makes sense because you're part of the Netflix family, Stranger Things, a huge hit, and it makes sense that Netflix would reach out to you for this. Is it true that in order to get Jake Paul ready for the fight against Tyson, that you were his sparring partner so he could get used to slower guys in the ring?
That is true. I'm Look at what you can do. I would totally buy that. And by the way, keeps
this
the
is not
glasses.
Photoshop, by
No,
the
it's
way.
not.
No.
And by the way, a lot of guys would take off their glasses in the ring. I was so confident he couldn't get in. I went, I want to see what I'm hitting. Bow!
What's weird too is that you don't seem like a guy that has that many tattoos.
I know, but I do. I do. And he's stunned. Look at him.
Yeah, you definitely tagged him there. Any comments? Are you training now?
You know what? I did. I did see Mike Tyson in the airport, and I just gave him one just to see what it would be like. A punch in the stomach, and I got $1.7 million for it.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah, that's nice.
actually, I don't need the big 20.
Yeah,
You know what?
one shot.
I'll kick him in the balls for $1.3 million.
One shot, goodbye.
Yeah. I remember another brush with fame.
Yeah.
I was actually at the fight where he bit.
No, the Holyfield bite?
Yeah. I'm not a particular boxing fan, but my friend got tickets and we went.
Whoa.
And I think it was early, first round, second round, and we going, I think he bit his ear. Is that a thing? Can you bite the guy? And so you just
What a
go, okay.
moment.
So Tyson was persona non grata. Not long after that, I'm on a plane, D.C. back to L.A. He's a couple of rows in front of me, and I'm going, I'm not going to talk to him because that's what he needs. He needs Comedy Boy to say hello to him. And so I'm going, geez, what a terrible person. And I went up to use the bathroom. I come back, and he looks up. He goes, hey, how you doing? And I went, oh, hey, champ, how are you? You broke me. You were just so nice. I went, how you doing? How you doing?
Yeah, it's so cute.
I remember, so that's how long I held out in my not talking to Mike Tyson. That'll teach him.
You made a real stance all the way to the bathroom.
A moral stance all the way from the bathroom to road 2. I held firm.
Your special is really funny, just talking about getting older, not being able to see, all of the things that are kind of...
I'm just telling you what's happening.
Yeah,
I can't make anything up, folks.
Right. Yeah.
But isn't the great thing about, when you hit a bit and some bits are just clever and funny and some people go, yes, thank you. They're like, oh, I'm so glad we're not the only one having that problem at home.
Yeah, you dusted that one off.
Yeah.
I thought I was just thinking about that in my dark moments in the living room. I love the bit about the 3 piles.
Yes.
It's because my kids have just left.
Oh, really?
And we're faced with this house filled with stuff, and I just want to get rid of all of it.
None of it
And my
helps.
wife's like, we can't get rid of that pogo stick. They might come back.
By the way, ask them, do you want us to keep this? No. They're like, they don't want anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think, I said, kids are not nostalgic because they haven't been around long enough to nostalge. They don't have that thing.
Yeah.
Whereas we, they're all about the future. We have very little future left. Yeah. So listen, can we clean out? Yeah. You just want to get rid of stuff. It's just sad. And I guess what would be a successful end of life if you're a foot from death and you go, the house is empty.
Yeah.
We're ready.
I know.
And then you start thinking, I don't want to leave this for the kids to deal with because they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. They certainly don't need their finger paintings from kindergarten.
Yeah.
I think you look at it, now throw it out.
Yeah. How do you feel about it now at this stage? Like, you kind of because it's kind of fresh in my mind because the kids are literally for the first time are gone.
I was Are they all the same age?
19 and 22.
Oh yeah. So it was tough. It was tougher than I thought. About I don't know, it was 4 years ago, and my younger son, I have two boys,
Right.
and he was heading east to go to college, and
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is terrible. I was like, and it's just the ground under you moves because it's all been about, I remember like a couple of weeks before he left for school, he was out late, and my wife and I were like, well, you got to call if you're going to be late, and I said, in 2 weeks, we're not going to know what time he goes to bed. We're going to have to learn to like let go.
Yeah.
And you never stop worrying,
Yeah.
but you can't control it. But I had heard this phenomenon happens, and it's been kind of true. They move away, and then something new comes and grows in place. Like he's moved across the country. He lives in Brooklyn now.
Yeah.
But we've gotten closer. We're actually writing something together.
Wow.
We're writing something, a father-son story together. I thought,
Wow.
well, this is fun. I didn't see this coming.
Amazing.
And and he
My
went,
daughter's in Brooklyn, and
Yeah?
she's helping me direct my buddy in an off-Broadway thing.
Wow.
And she's like there all the time.
It's
and
great.
It's so great.
What part of Brooklyn?
Bushwick.
There you go. He's in like near Prospect Park.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll see each other. And go,
Yeah.
Isn't our dad annoying? Yes, mine too.
We wrote this father-son thing, but
Yes.
how about
Yeah. How
we
about
ditched
two-
the father part?
We ditched the father part, and it's two idiots who are getting checks from their parents. And
But it is amazing, and I'm sure you have these moments, especially if you're writing together, where you really value their creative input,
for sure,
right? You're like, what do you think?
Yes, and you realize you've done your job, even though it wasn't necessarily intentional. You've raised culturally smart, funny people.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, I got so much from my son. I mean, he literally told me about Stranger Things before I got the call.
Wow.
I was on The Boys. I got an offer to be on The Boys, and I never heard of it. And I asked him, I said, you ever heard of the show The Boys? They want me to be on it. He said, oh, Dad, it's great, and you'll hate it. And I went, really? He goes, trust me, you're not going to. And I went, oh, wow, this is crazy. But so I definitely, or sometimes he's really comedically savvy, and he'll call me on something that it's like, that's like old guy shtick. And like, that's like,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
He'll call you out?
like like when he was in 10th grade, and just all the cliches of like, am I right? I went, oh, so that's like, you can't even say it. You're like, hey, you ever notice something? Am I right? And like, oh, they're just doing that ironically. So that you can't do
Yeah.
that. That's not a good joke anymore. Or it can either be tool. But
Yeah.
we were writing, we worked together on this Aliens comic. And we would submit. And he wrote a couple of the scripts, and I was just basically, contributing my dialogue, my cartoon. I'm not talking. It's just a
Yeah.
comic book.
Yeah.
And so we would each submit our jokes to Adam and his partner, his writing partner Hans, and they would be pitching on the same jokes. And he would show them to me, and I'll go, just send them in. Let's see, let them take whatever they want.
Yeah.
And and Adam would call me. He said, listen, I love you, and I respect you, and we're writing this for you. It's about you. You created the role. Having said that, your son's jokes are funnier. All right? I said, I know. And he said, I imagine you're proud. I said, couldn't be prouder. I said, totally. Let him do, his were funnier.
But there's got to be a little part of you that's like, not next time.
I'll get you. No, but if it raises your game, great.
Yeah, no, that is great. Yeah, it's so funny.
You got to
that it
take
can
notes
be
from
funny.
your daughter now.
I really I value it. It's like because there is that thing there's I think it's why comedy doesn't really last. It's like, all our favorite comics, if you were to show like our kids Robert Klein, they'd be like, yeah, I get it. I see what you're talking about, but it doesn't have that. There is a immediacy to stand up in the moment. So like to pay attention to young comics or our kids, it is good to hear like.
But do you watch a lot of comics? Well, maybe you do for this show.
Well,
maybe.
I do. I also have this Netflix radio show. Netflix is a joke, so we have a lot of comics come through there.
So you have to.
Yeah, which is good.
I find I tend to not.
Yeah.
Because I think one of two things will happen. I go, oh boy, I just wrote that bit. Okay, I have to throw mine out. This guy already did that, or she already did it.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you go, whoa, that person is so good.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna.
Yeah.
That's just too
That's
good.
impressive.
Yeah.
There's also the old man
That's not
part of it that once in a while is like, they're not even telling jokes. Where's the punchline? Come on. In my day, you'd have 6 punchlines with this point.
So once in a while, I'll dig up something really old that I liked as a kid, and I'll
Yeah.
just go. Do you remember Charlie Callis? No, he's a
Yeah,
Jersey.
the
Charlie Callis,
the
a big
football
funny
player, right?
No, not Alex Karras. Alex Karras, but no, Charlie Callis
From Webster.
was a football was a comic. And there was a period in the 70s, he was just on he was on Dean Martin roast all the time, and he was a very funny looking clown face, and he was just the silliest stuff in the world. It was just,
Right.
"Hey," and making funny faces. And I remember I would watch that with my dad, and he found it funny, and I found it funny.
Yeah.
So I dug up clips, and I'm going, I don't remember it. I do remember laughing at it. And I dug up these clips, and I said, Leo, I said to my son, watch this with me. And I'm crying laughing. I go, it's so funny. He's going, Dad, you're laughing at this? I go, it's really funny. It's not really funny. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
But it's like early Jerry Lewis. It's like, it's not brilliant, but it's brilliant. You know,
Yeah.
it's clown.
And he is I don't know what it is, but they are capturing something of the moment, of the cultural moment that is subtle that you will connect to, but your kid won't.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, there's something in the air with comics. I mean, beyond the material, the way they deliver it, the thing, like you.
Yes. Well, also they are pulling from such a wider net of information and cultural references. You know, I remember in his early teens, my son had already clocked. He recognized classical pieces of music or movie references only from watching The Simpsons, because The Simpsons had already put it in quotes, so he knew the quote.
Right.
He knew the music. It's like, well, you never saw the show. Oh, so you just, and there's so much of that, and you're
Yeah.
you know, you can just surf and just get everything. So
Yeah.
they're way more savvy, and they have so much more information and material at their fingertips than we did.
It's amazing how many people who aren't even in comics or in show business, but online, will just pop up things off of some event that happens, and they're just knock dead funny. They're just like everyday people are just pitching jokes every single day. Right now, something's going on, and people are shooting stuff out on social media that is great stuff.
Yeah. You're trying to depress me? What are you doing?
No, I think
yes.
but it is a very cool thing. But the beauty of stand-up, of classic stand-up, is there's only one Paul Reiser standing up there and
it is different.
Relating to his fans and taking you through this story, and that's the beauty of it. Like,
and when you watch people who are good at it, you know, if they're really good, you know, most people would not even notice what's happening. They're just,
right.
Oh, well, they're just taking us for a ride. But, you know, we'll watch it with a critical eye, and you go, oh, it's, you know, I remember seeing Cosby, if we can use the expression.
Sure.
And you go. I remember as a, you know, going, and I'm in my head taking notes. Where's he going? And then 7 minutes in, I'm going, take me wherever you want me.
Yeah.
And you leave going, that's skillful. That's just good.
Yeah. What just happened?
What just happened? How do I do that?
Yeah. Why was I asleep for an hour?
What just happened? I hear people laughing. Yeah. But yeah, there is a big difference between the funny guy in the office and somebody who can go up and really, you know, fill a theater and work for an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's something that I'm proud of. I just did a show last week, and having not done a show for 3 months, and I went, and I had this on the calendar. It was a show in Vegas, and I was actually nervous. I went, you know, the nightmare where you go, oh, I have a school report tomorrow and I haven't written it. It's like, it's that, but it's true. I don't remember my act. I've been doing other things. And I just kind of looked it over and I went, oh yeah, I got it. And I went up and it was a great show. And I thought, okay, how does that happen? It's like, because it's in your bones, it's in your DNA.
How much did you tour up to the special?
Well, this year less. I mean, last year, working up to the special, I was out like every weekend, every other weekend.
Yeah,
and
we were both in Florida. I was right before you.
Yes,
around Fort Lauderdale or someplace.
You know, that's one of the funny, also nice things. People say, are comedians, you know, competitive? I said, no, we're all. I mean, we may go, oh, I wish I thought of that. I wish that's a great joke.
Yeah,
but we're not vying for the same seat.
Right.
You know, if there's 5 actors going up for a role, one of you will get it, 4 of you will not. But comedians is like, oh, Tom's there this week, I'll be there next week.
Right, exactly.
It's like this, if you're good, you're going to work, and
Yeah.
there's going to be a need for you.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, from from seeing you on that little sheet that Lucian Hold was showing me at the comic show to like, oh, I'm playing the same place that. All right, it's working. It's working out.
It's working. Yeah, I would stick with it, Tom. It seems to be working for you.
We do another thing on this program. We like the finer things. I baked you this bread, and I hope you enjoy it.
I will look forward.
We also like
It's also
things,
a perfect rugby ball. Yeah.
Be nice to it. We also like things that we just find in gas stations and 7-Eleven. And this week we have
Pastry bites.
Pop-Tart pastry bites.
Wow.
Your friend Jerry is a big fan of the Pop-Tarts.
I understand. So this came to being because they were cleaning out the machines where they make actual pastries and went, what do we do with this shit? It's already small. Put it in a bag.
What do we do with the crumbs?
Yeah. Well, donut holes. Like, that's a genius move. So it's a pastry bite.
It's a Pop-Tart bite.
Oh, but it already is shaped. It's not actually crumbs.
They're actually in the shape of mini Pop-Tarts.
Okay, good for them. So. Read the nutritional value.
Oh, yeah.
Second ingredient, crap.
Whoa, the smell immediately, though.
Really? Is Pop-Tart smell?
Here, you open it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's not a smell found in nature.
No.
That's strawberry and diesel.
Yeah, that is not. Ooh, look at the shape.
But and these are all hand done. They have a very artisans come in and they. Tom,
Little children. Yes, thank you.
ready? Do we toast?
Ooh, they're little. Yes.
Cheers.
It's a comedy.
It's a comedy. Here we go. You ready? Mm-hmm. It's not gonna be good.
I think it's pretty good.
If you're on the road and you got 4 more hours of driving, you stop to pee. That's all they had. It'll get you to Columbus. Yeah, it tastes like a big Pop-Tart, but it's very small. And
Yeah.
okay, let's see what the nutritional value.
Oh, God.
Ingredients.
Flour, water, salt, and yeast.
I got the wrong glass. Yeah. Oh my God. It does
The wrong
contain,
glasses.
well, contains wheat and soy ingredients. I would hope to God they're making like. I would assume that. Well, good for you. That's quite a find. You should be very proud of yourself.
I like how you. It's pretty good. What would you give it out of a 10? 10 being the tops.
10 being like great food.
Great food.
Or a great pastry gas
Food
station.
adjacent
Well, in the world
product.
of gas station things,
Yeah.
nice 7.
Yeah. I'd put it at 7.
Yeah.
I've only had one and it's still on the roof of my mouth.
Oh, it'll be there quite some time. I'll come back next week.
Yeah.
Still working.
You, when you started reading the ingredients, you said you didn't have the right
yeah.
glasses.
No.
You have a very funny bit about
Oh yeah,
like having 7 different pairs of glasses.
yeah. Because the first time they have, you have these graded ones. They work. I go, it makes me dizzy. So I have these are driving. I got another pair for reading. Another pair for reading the computer because that's further than a book. And then I think I said, wait a second, the computer's further, but I could move the computer. They go, yeah, but you're not gonna. I go, that's so true. That is so true.
My wife is going through a thing where she's been fighting it, and I'm like, you need glasses. She can't read anything.
doesn't
For
even
like
have-
3 years. She's just bumbling around. I'm like, you need glasses.
Wow.
So she went to get the checkup and all the thing, and now she's doing things with contacts because she doesn't like having to find glasses. So they have a contact that goes in one eye that will help you with your
Close,
reading.
yes.
Yeah, but you still that. She's banging into walls.
I can only go to my left.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wow.
And now she's trying the other way. It's a disaster. I'm like, just get glasses.
Yeah, and because I love glasses on a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife was complaining she had one gray hair. I went, I don't know how you don't. I love gray hair on women. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
She goes, I hate it. I go, there's one. Nobody's going to look that close.
How close are you to
My wife?
giving in?
Very
and-
close.
How long have you been married?
We've been married 36 years.
Wow. Mazel tov.
32 of them beauties.
Wow. That's that's a nice run.
Yeah, no, we're still going.
Yeah.
And when I left the house, I don't know.
She think you're funny?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes. We always joke about because people go, "Oh, he must be funny all the time." I'm like, but can you imagine being married to somebody who didn't appreciate your sense of humor?
Oh, no.
You couldn't.
No, I know. She laughs harder at me than she laughs at me in a way that annoys the children.
Wow.
That's a good wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember, and yeah, she will laugh. And I remember, we'll still joke about, I think on our first date, like I remember telling her some really stupid joke and she laughed. I went, can't believe I led with a joke. I was doing 15 minutes. But
How'd you meet?
we met at a comedy club. She
Oh,
was a
really?
waitress and I was headlining in
Ah.
Pittsburgh. where apparently Jay Leno falls down hills.
Oh yeah, I just heard about
What
this
the
today.
hell? By the way,
He's got an eye patch on.
he went on stage bruised. I mean, he was like, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. God forbid he cancels the show.
Yeah.
He never would
Because
cancel
who
the show.
wants to? Yeah, I'm sure it was great. Yeah, he's
such
from
a
his own planet.
He's a machine.
God bless him. He is a machine.
He showed me pictures. He was here on the podcast, and he showed me pictures of the aftermath of that fire when his whole head caught on fire. He showed me like pictures of him and like getting his new face.
That must be horrible.
Horrible. And he's
my
like, not a big deal. You know, they just put a little stuff in there. A little
But
putty.
he was the first guy, the comic that I knew. We weren't peers because he was older and he was already. I was still in college and he was already on Carson. But he had a house. He was married and he had a house, and it was up in the hills here in Hollywood. And I remember I found a picture. Mark Schiff sent me a picture of it was Larry Miller and Schiff and I and Jerry in Leno's pool, and went, boy, were we young.
Yeah.
But that we knew somebody that had a pool. If I had thought to tell him, Jay, as we get older, don't walk down a hill in a wintry city.
Yeah.
Maybe don't do that. By the way, the guy has 1,400 cars. Pick one, drive to the fucking place.
I know. And he won't get room service. He won't get room service. He was going out to find food, and he stumbled down the hill. I'm like, just get some room service. I like going out. I like being with the people. He's a machine.
Wow. I'm totally room service.
Me too.
When they go, we have some great restaurants in this casino. Yeah, no, just bring it up to my room. And I don't want to see people until exactly 8 o'clock.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm the
And
same
then I'll be
way.
happy to see them.
Yeah,
But
all at once.
Yeah, I don't need. There's also something sad about eating in a restaurant by yourself.
Yeah.
People pity you.
Did you guys stop doing the cigar on New Year's Day?
We did.
You did?
Well, it wasn't the cigar. We used to get together for New Year's. Yeah, that was
You?
Schiff, Larry, and Jerry, and Michael Caine.
Oh.
And then it started in '80, and then we did it really every year, New Year's Day, and then it kind of died out. I don't know, 10 years ago. Suddenly married and kids, and people said, "Yeah."
It was a nice tradition to watch.
It was a wonderful tradition.
You guys would get a cigar and take a walk.
We would have a fancy. Well, when we were starting out, it was a very fancy thing with it,
Yeah.
And then it suddenly go, yeah, that's what things cost. But it was, yeah, we were celebrating. It was like a brotherhood of comedies, like because we all had nothing to do. We're not going to New Year's Eve parties,
Right.
And it started because it's New Year's Day. What are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing? All right, let's go for lunch and
Yeah,
pretend
get
we
some-
have a life. But yeah, and it would sort of arc our careers, and then it gets harder because
Yeah.
you're married. They go, I'm going to be New Year's Eve flying to have lunch with 4 other idiots. It's a harder sell.
You kept it going like during Seinfeld and during Mad About You? and-
Yeah. We
Wow.
stopped. I would say probably maybe 10 years ago.
But then you started when you were just
We
young.
started.
knock-around
It was
comics.
1980. We were just puppies.
Gee, that's great.
Yeah, it went for about 35 years or something.
Wow. Sounds like you should get some of the gang together and do another one.
Okay.
And tell me about it. I just like knowing it was going on.
Don't invite me.
Yeah, I could fill in.
Yeah, but it was But
There is that there is that
brotherhood.
thing, that brotherhood,
Yeah,
sisterhood
and
of
it's
starting
all-
with people.
Yes, and in the clubs, and somebody would come over. Another comic would listen to you a bit and go, "Hey, I got a line," and I'll pitch a line. Try this,
Yeah.
and it was always welcome. And you try it, and it works great. Singers don't do that. Maybe bend the note this way. How about fuck off?
Yeah, leave me alone.
But comedians yeah, we'll listen. We're helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where are you now? The special's out.
The special's out. So now let me ask you, because you've done what, 6 specials? Mm-hmm. What, do you burn that material?
Yeah.
That's what was part of keeping me from doing it. It's like, I don't want to throw all this nice material
Until
out.
corporate dates.
Yes.
Then it all comes out.
But they will have seen corporate date. Oh, because you don't have to feel bad. They haven't paid for it.
And I feel like at a corporate date, there's probably 10% of the people are comedy fans, and the rest are there because their boss said you had to be there.
Yes.
So it's kind of new to them.
But I
You know what I
was,
mean?
yeah.
What's
So-
amazing when you do those and you break out like the oldest of the oldest bits.
Yes.
And they kill.
Yes, you go, oh.
Why did I throw this stuff away? This is so much fun.
I was aware of that, and I thought, well, and that was sort of what was delaying me from doing a special. I thought, no, you got to put your big boy pants on and do a special.
Yeah.
And, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff I didn't have in the special that's, up and working. But I go, you'll give yourself that task, write the next hour.
Yeah.
And you break it down, it sounds doable. It's like, 1 hour, that's 5 minutes a month. That's a minute a week. You can write a minute in a week. It's like, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, you write 6 minutes and then it boils down to, it's really just 40 seconds.
Yeah.
If I take off the fat, there's
Yeah.
very little there. But that's the fun of it. When you start seeing, I was talking before about, your brain is not wired. If you take a long time off, you lose that mojo.
Yeah.
And that's when it's cooking. That's what's so exciting to me. It's like that bit actually connects with that bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought those were separate. No, they're both about embarrassment. They're both
Yeah.
about whatever the theme is. And like, and then when you click that on stage, you go, that was fun. That was a good night.
Yeah.
And it's usually not what
Yeah.
the audience, and so go, it was fine. I go, it wasn't fine. I didn't like that show. And then there could be a show where they think it's terrible. I go, no, it was great.
Because I had one line.
I had
that
one
worked.
line. Oh, I mean, we see each other down at the Hermosa Beach Comedy and Magic Club. And, for me, that's a 45-minute, or now it's like an hour. And I'll drive an hour, and I'll do 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah. And then I'll drive back an hour. So, and my kids would go, "You're going to drive? But you're going to get paid?" "No, I'm not getting. Why are you going?" I said, "Because this is how you do it."
Yeah.
And
it's
if
the
you write
best.
a line at 4 o'clock and it gets a
Yeah.
laugh at 8:30, you go, "That's a good day.
Yeah.
That's a really good day."
Did you, because you have your hand in so many things and you act and now you're writing this stuff with your son and do films and stand up, do you always, was there ever a plan, or you just kind of like, as the opportunities come up,
Never
this
had
is
a
going to
plan.
get the attention now?
I don't think, I don't know if any of us had a plan. Maybe Leno, that like he said, "This is what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing anything else."
Yeah.
But no, I mean, my goal was like, I want to get on the Tonight Show, like the guys that I admire, and I want to be that guy. And I guess I knew that, sometimes they get TV shows or movies, whatever, but it wasn't a plan. And what I think now, you asked me before, was I taking an acting class? So I must have, in my mind, like, you want to be ready for that opportunity.
Yeah.
But I can look back and think of everything that happened was not really planned. Even I got an audition for Aliens. It's like, I have no business being in a movie like that. They're like, but Jim Cameron said, "Yeah, all right, I guess I'm in this movie."
Yeah.
And even Mad About You only came up because I was approached, and they said, they'd see my stand-up, whatever, and they, we would like you to come up with an idea for a show for you. I was like, well, I wouldn't have thought of doing that. That takes a lot of balls, but, and I remember at the time, it was, whatever, it was 1990, and I was just newly married, and my act was suddenly, I feel like, okay, I think I got my footing now. This is what I do better than other stuff. The marriage stuff is deeper, funnier, richer, more true.
Yeah.
And so I said, if I was going to do a show, it would be something really small. I don't know if you want. It was really just like the little things between a married couple. And they went, "Go write that." And so, okay, here it is. And then again, circumstance. Jerry's show was just taking off. It hadn't become the juggernaut that it was. And they was thinking it was going to be something. They said, "We need a companion piece." So our initial season, we were paired with his show. Mm-hmm. And so, and if it weren't for that little accident of programming,
God.
they might not have said, "Let's try another comedian from New York."
Yeah. God, that's such a cool.
I mean, but I didn't plan it, And
And are you that way creatively now? The same way?
I don't come up with a lot of ideas, and that's what I love about stand-up. It's like I don't need a big idea. I just need I need one bit for tonight to make today worthwhile.
Yeah.
And but I have this thing that I'm going to write, and again, I was approached, and I said, "Yeah, I think I could come up with an idea for a show," but I rarely do I push something uphill. This movie, The Problem with People, which I had an idea for a movie years ago, only because I wanted to go to Ireland. And I said, I really want to, I had been there and I loved it. And I said, okay, what's a movie where I would go to Ireland and pretty scenery? And I came up with this idea. Okay, they're distant cousins on both sides of the ocean, and there's a conflict in the family. Okay, that's going to be funny. And that took so much pushing uphill. It's like, well, writing it, and I found a buddy who I wrote it with, and now it came together. And then you have to sell it. You have to get somebody to finance it, and then wait for the actors. And only after those kind of really struggles and challenges did I start to view stand-up differently and go, you know what else I love about stand-up? It's uncomplicated. I think of it at 4 and I tell it at 8:30.
Yeah.
And I don't have to run it past anybody.
Yeah.
I don't have to raise money. I don't have to wait 8 months to see if it worked. It's
Yeah.
like, when you start, you don't even know that that's a good thing.
No, I
but
know.
compare it to
Yeah.
really trying to do something big, you go, stand-up is just so gratifying.
And you actually feel it. You actually feel you film. It's like, people like it. Yeah, we liked it.
And it can
Okay.
go wrong on a number of places.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it didn't edit well or whatever.
Yeah.
And stand-up, and again, it didn't work yet today, but maybe it'll work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or I'll change this and hopefully make it work better.
So great.
That's why I always go, people say, well, why do you go back? I went, that's all I wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's when people go, but you didn't do a special for 30 years. I go, I know. I was busy.
Yeah.
I like to space them out. You know what I mean? Every 32 years, like clockwork.
Yeah, but I mean, to your point, the being able to tour with it while you are doing other things, like you kind of don't want to burn that act. You want to be able to tour, and you're not going to have the capacity to get a whole nother hour because you got stuff going.
Yeah,
on.
but you do it slowly. Like I coming up in the new year, I have a couple of theater dates. But a couple of club days, I go, let me do 4 shows in a weekend, and then I'll leave with maybe 5 new minutes.
Exactly.
That work.
Yeah, 5.
And it's always fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
Well, this was amazing. This was really great to spend some time with
Lovely
you.
to sit with you finally.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got this together, and I'm so glad that sign-up sheet was so pivotal.
Yeah,
in your life.
it was. I mean, that is the very cool thing about
I think
this comedy journey is
and
that
it still had our parents' phone number, our home phone number.
Oh,
on it.
really?
Yeah.
That's
Spring
so
7,
great.
2 7, whatever it was.
Amazing.
Yeah, we didn't have our own phones. Or
Yeah,
houses.
no, that's so cool.
Well, it all worked out, and I'm glad, dude. I'm glad they didn't arrest you longer than one night.
Yeah,
I'm glad you got out.
I get out. I didn't have to stay in Fort Lee forever.
Yep.
And looking forward to the next special. Come back and promote the next special.
Done. Nice to see you.
And you
John.
can take the bread and
I'm taking the bread.
Pop-Tart
Now,
bites.
do we cut it here, or
No,
I'll bring
you're
it
gonna
home?
take it home. We have a bag for you and everything. We're a classy operation.
If I find out this is a fake prop, I'm going to come right back. I'll be so pissed. Thank you, Tom.
All right, we got it, kids.